All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to take a trip around the world to really understand our planet's forests. We'll start with a super simple idea and end up exploring a complex, global system that's, well, vital to every single one of us. So let's start with what sounds like a basic question, right? What's the real difference between a forest and just a bunch of trees? But the answer, you'll see, is actually way more fascinating than you might think. It's not just about the number of trees, but how they got there and how they work together as one giant living thing. Okay, so at its core, a forest is a big area covered with trees. But here's the key phrase you need to remember: natural vegetation. That's the secret sauce. It means the forest grows all on its own, without us really getting involved. And this is where that distinction becomes crystal clear. A forest is a self-sustaining system. It just works, relying on natural processes. Crops, on the other hand, they are completely dependent on us for pretty much everything: planting, watering, fertilizing, the whole deal. So if forests just grow on their own, why don't they all look the same? I mean, why isn't a forest just a forest? Well, it turns out that every forest has its own unique recipe of environmental ingredients that defines what it is. And what's in that recipe? You've got the climate, the temperature, how much rain and sunlight it gets, the kind of soil it has, even its latitude and altitude. You mix all those things together, and that's exactly why a mountains forest in one part of the world looks totally different from a forest in the Amazon basin. Okay, now the first big way we can start to sort forests into different types comes down to one really simple factor. How much did we, as humans, have to do with its creation? So on one side, you have your natural or primary forests. These are the ones that evolved all by themselves. Seeds fall, trees grow, and the whole ecosystem just develops with almost no human interference. But a planted forest, well, the name says it all. We created it, usually for a very specific reason. And why would we go to all that trouble? Oh, for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's for raw materials, like timber farms for wood. Other times it's to create new habitats for wildlife. And sometimes it's even for defense, like planting massive shelter belts of trees to literally stop a desert from spreading. They're actually incredibly powerful tools. Now, beyond just where they came from, we can also classify forests by the trees themselves. And it turns out that almost every forest on Earth is dominated by one of two major tree families, which creates two very, very different worlds. You could call it a tale of needles versus leaves. So on one side, you have coniferous forests. Think of those iconic needle-like leaves and cones. They're built for colder climates. On the other side, you've got the deciduous forests, with their wide, flat leaves and seeds that grow from flowers. These guys thrive where there's plenty of rain. Let's step inside a coniferous forest for a second. You're thinking of pines, firs, spruces. They're evergreen, which means the forest never looks bare. And that classic cone shape? That's not just for looks. It's a brilliant adaptation that helps heavy snow slide right off the branches. It's no surprise you find these tough forests in cold, high-altitude places. Okay, now let's picture a deciduous forest full of maple or oak trees. This is a world all about change. These forests go through 4 distinct seasons, from fresh green leaves in the spring to that incredible burst of color in the fall, right before the leaves drop for winter. It's a really clever strategy to survive the cold. So from those big, broad categories, let's zoom in on what is arguably the most biodiverse and maybe the most important forest ecosystem on Earth: the tropical rainforest. So where are these incredible places? You'll find them in a green band that wraps right around the Earth's equator, pretty much between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. And that location is the key to everything that makes them so special. So what's the key? Well, it's a climate that is consistently hot, humid, and wet. You've got temperatures that stay warm all year and rain pretty much constantly. It is the perfect incubator for life. And what an incubator it is. I mean, this number is almost hard to believe, but tropical rainforests are home to more than half of all plant and animal species on the entire planet. An incredible, unbelievable concentration of biodiversity. And the ultimate example, of course, has to be the Amazon. It is just vast. We're talking about a single lowland forest that is so big it spreads across 9 different countries. The scale is just immense.
But here's the urgent reality. This vital global resource is being cut down at a really rapid rate, and it's largely to meet our global demand for wood and other products that come from the forest.
So let's zoom back out and connect all of this to the big picture. Why does any of this really matter to us? Well, because forests are so much more than just a collection of trees. They are economic and ecological powerhouses. Forest products are a huge part of global trade. They generate revenue that countries use for infrastructure, for education, for health. Not to mention, the industry creates countless jobs supporting local communities all around the world. To see the flip side of that coin, let's look at a specific case study. Pakistan gives us a really clear example of the challenges a country faces when it has limited forest resources. And the numbers here really tell the whole story. Just 4.8% of Pakistan's total land area is covered by forests. That is just not nearly enough to meet the demand for everything from construction to sports equipment, and it forces the country to rely heavily on expensive imports. So what this all really boils down to is this. From the frozen north to the humid tropics, forests are an absolutely vital resource. They don't just support the planet's ecological health, they support our global economic stability too. Which leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. The evidence is pretty clear that forests are perfectly capable of existing without us. But after everything we've seen today, are we capable of living without them? That's something to consider.